In this lesson, we're going to talk about understanding large numbers. This is an interesting concept because some of these numbers that you deal with, 1 million, 1 billion, 1 trillion, do we really have a feel for how big they are? So first off, let's talk about 1 million. How big is 1 million? If you were to count one number per second, how long would it take you to count to 1 million? Now, you would probably have a hard time doing this when you get to some of these bigger ones. Even saying something like 9,999. That almost takes more than a second just right there. But let's just say hypothetically you could speak fast enough that you could count one number per second. How long would it take to count to 1 million? What we want to do is try to figure out, well, how long is 1 million seconds? If we take 1 million, remember 1 million has 6 zeros, seconds. How long is that? Well, let's do some division. We know that there are 60 seconds in a minute. So that can take us to figuring out how many minutes it would take. I get 16,666.67 minutes. And I'm not going to round that on my calculator, just write it down here. All right, let's convert that to hours. Well, we can look at the minutes that we just found, and then we can say, how many minutes are in an hour? 60. All right, there's 60 minutes in an hour. So then I'll divide my answer by 60 again. Using the unrounded version from my calculator when I did this, I got that it would be 277.78 hours. That's getting there, but that's still kind of hard for us to wrap our mind around. Let's convert that to days. So I'll take the number 277.78 hours and then divide by the number of hours in a day, which is 24. So once we do 24 hours in a day, I get 11.57 days. So this would take a while, just to count to 1 million. It would take 11.57 days to count one number per second and get to 1 million. 1 million is actually kind of big. Let's look at another one. How long ago was 1 million days ago? Well, 1 million days, maybe if we convert that to years, we'll get something out of it. So let's start with 1 million days, and then we can say divided by, we'll keep it simple. We'll say 365 days in a year. Yes, you guys probably know that there are different numbers of days in a year, depending on the year. It might be better to say 365.24 or whatever it is. But anyway, if I make this division, let's see what we get. I get 2,739.73 years. That's a pretty long time. So none of you are 1 million days old. That's much longer than the average human lifespan. So 1 million days ago was a very long time. 1 million is bigger than you realize. The idea of $1 million is something that some people aspire for, but honestly, the $1 million is probably the only 1 million concept that's kind of easy for us to keep in our heads. As you can see when we look at it in terms of time, it's kind of long. Let's try 1 billion. How long would it take us to count to 1 billion if we go one number per second? 1 billion has 9 zeros, so we're looking at 1 billion seconds, and then we need to divide this out. Let's be a little bit faster this time. Before we divided by 60 to go to minutes, and then divided by 60 again to go to hours, you can look at the number of seconds in an hour directly if you just say 60 times 60, which is 3,600 seconds in an hour. Let's see what we get out of that. I get 277,777.78 hours. Let's convert that to days by dividing by 24. There are 24 hours in a day. Let's see how many days this is. I get 11,574.07 days. That's still a little bit too long for me to figure out how long is that really. So let's divide again. Let's do divided by 365. That would be the number of days in a year. And then, let's see what we get. 31.71 years. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this particular person is older than that. So if I had started when I was born and counted to 1 billion, one number per second, somehow miraculously, I might be finishing up relatively recently. Here's another interesting question. Assuming the distance around the Earth is 25,000 miles, and 1 mile is 5,280 feet, let's figure out how many times we could go around the Earth if we did 1 billion feet. You can kind of imagine this as going heel-toe, 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 making small little steps, and doing that 1 billion times, and assuming you could somehow do that across water and that sort of thing. We're curious to find out how many times would we go around the Earth if we did this. Let's start with the 1 billion feet. Again, 1 billion has 9 zeros. And then let's convert that to miles by dividing by the 5,280 feet in a mile that we were given. I get 189,393.94 rounding miles. Now that's not too terribly large if you look at the distance around the Earth. It's not like it's going to be a gigantic number, but it's still going to be quite a few times around the Earth. And the Earth is a pretty big place. Let's divide out by the 25,000 miles. And we'll call this a lap. 25,000 miles and a lap around the Earth. I get 7.58 laps around Earth. So if you were to do this heel-toe step 1 billion times, it would take you around the Earth 7.58 times. And again, the Earth is a pretty big place. Now, 1 trillion. Probably the only place you've encountered the number trillion is the U.S. national debt. But there are other places you could probably see it. Let's see how long it would take to count to 1 trillion. Here's the first step, keeping in mind that 1 trillion has 12 zeros. When I divide out to get to number of hours, I have 277 million hours. Now let's do another division. We get 11,574,074 days. Now we've already done 1 million days earlier, and it was kind of big. So equally, we expect this to be a rather large number of years. We get 31,709.79 years is how long it would take you to count one number per second and count to 1 trillion. 1 trillion is an absolutely huge number. It's so big that it is impossible to count to 1 trillion. For our final example in this area, suppose you had $1 trillion and you decide to give away $1 million each day. And we want to figure out how long would it take you to give the money away. Again, $1 trillion has 12 zeros on it. And we're going to be giving away $1 million, which has 6 zeros per day. And I think you guys can do the math. Some of the zeros cancel out, and you see that we would end up with 1 million days. Fortunately, we've already made that conversion. We found that this was 2,739.73 years. So if you had $1 trillion, and every day you picked one lucky person to give $1 million, you would have to take 2,739 years to give all your money away. You wouldn't run out of it. Let's end with just a few fun facts about millions and billions and trillions. Enjoy these, and remember, these numbers are bigger than you might think. It's quite a bit to actually reach millions and billions and especially trillions.